So, you've decided to do a colonialism. You've given your villagers free and secure housing, bed and board if you will, in a much safer environment to keep them free from the horrors of the night. This all feels a little bit too Soviet. Jeez! And you're here to make the East India Company proud. You're here to do some commerce. There's supply and demand, but supply this, demand that. We're not here to be fair. Sure, these guys demand crops and pumpkins and melons for their shiny emeralds, and sure, you could manually plant, grow and harvest them, but... You have ADHD, and your Ritalin expired in 2021, so you can only tolerate doing this for so long.
Alan! I can hear you, Kate. I'm just choosing not to respond.
Before you inevitably end up doing this. Automation it is! In fact, automation it's been. However, it's been flawed automation. See, this build has been on 1.20.1 for its entire life so far due to it being part of the Ada Legacy mod pack, which means that I haven't had access to the autocrafter, which means that I've had to craft all of these melon slicers by hand. However, after taking a break for, well, almost a year, before being lured back in by the YouTube algorithm, and specifically some videos by Dima, I threw together my own mod pack, and then transferred my old world over, mainly because I couldn't stand the thought of building all of this again. Thus, I can finally use the autocrafter. Or rather, I can finally stop reconstructing these stupid melons in this stupid crafting table. As previously mentioned, I already have this automatic pumpkin and melon farm. However, I really can't be bothered to figure out how to filter the melon slices from the pumpkins, and then also squeeze in an autocrafter. So, I'm not going to bother learning anything new. Instead, I'll apply the knowledge that I already have over the course of several hours to design a brand new multi-story autocrafting melon farm, which I will then have to spend several more hours clearing space for, gathering resources for, and then building. The latter part I'll get to at some point, but to get to the main point of this video, goddamn do I love going on tangents apparently, here's how the melon farm works. Alright, welcome to a massively empty super flat world where we will be exploring exactly how the melon farm works. It's very simple, So let's get to explaining it. Okay, so here is a very simple 7x7 setup for your melons to grow in. You've got, of course, the farmland, you've got some water to make sure the farmland stays hydrated. Since this is going to be on the inside of a machine, and also so that it can work at night, you've got a light source, since melons require a certain amount of light to grow, and then you've got natural dirt for your melons to grow onto, because melons and pumpkins won't grow onto stone or anything else. They have to grow on some form of dirt, be it, well, dirt, or farmland, coarse dirt, or grass for that matter, or in this case podzol. I've gone with podzol because it looks nice, and also it looks nice, that's explanation enough if you ask me. So, now these melons are going to gradually grow, but when they do grow, how do we get the machine to know that they have grown? Well, it's quite simple. Observers. If we had just a simple line of melons growing along like this, we could in theory have a setup like this, where an observer will look for where the melon will grow. When a melon grows there, it'll power this block, which will power this redstone, which will power this block, which will power this piston. But obviously there are several problems with this. First and foremost, it doesn't scale particularly well, since you won't be able to observe these blocks. And also, as I have just realised, because I'm pretty stupid, if you put a melon here, if it were to say suddenly grow, yeah, it ends up doing that, which won't allow another melon to grow particularly well. So this is just a bad idea all around. If we can't observe where the melons themselves are growing, we can instead observe where the stems are growing, or how the stems are growing, or rather, how the stems update. As you can see in the top there, it says growth 14%. If we bone meal it, 43%, 86%, and then mature. And now this stem will eventually grow itself a melon. Eventually, as we have seen. Goodness me, that took a long time. This one's almost ready as well. But as you can see, the stem itself is actually slightly different now compared to what it would be when it was full. We can use the observer to, well, observe that. And obviously if we can't go in from the sides, then we have no choice but to go in from the top. And so you just carefully aim and do it like this. Imagine having to do this 117 times. Anyway, with this all set up like this, now we just need a way to actually pop the melons once they grow. For that, as we saw, we use pistons, but in a slightly smarter way. Now you can use an elytra or a trapdoor to make yourself get into this crawling position, but very simply, you just do this. Oh my gosh. Imagine having to do this 112 times. Ow. Could never be me. Alright, so now quite simply we have to make sure that these pistons get powered. To do that, you just add a redstone over here on this. Make sure not to click the redstone twice, because otherwise it'll be like that. And I don't think that works particularly well, although I'm not going to bother testing it out because spent too long on this anyway, never mind. Now, in a lot of older tutorial videos, you will find that people place full solid blocks on top of the pistons themselves. I don't know if this is entirely necessary, but I do it anyway, just because better safe than sorry. Alright, and now with time fast forwarding, we can see that as they grow, or rather as the stems update, the observers see that, which then activates the pistons. And even though tick sprinting is currently on, hence why the clouds are moving so quickly, we can also see just how slow this entire process is, and it doesn't get any better when we're waiting for the melons themselves to grow. God, I hate these things. So now that melons will be popped as and when they grow, such as just then, that was very helpful, thank you very much. How do we go about collecting them? Because obviously we're not going to do that ourselves, this is an automation thing, so we've got to get a machine to do it for us. The obvious answer would be to use a hopper. However, hoppers won't cut it, sadly. As you can see, even if there is a hopper directly underneath where the melon slicers are, it won't pick them up because, well, there's a block in the way. So instead, we'll need a hopper minecart. We build one end, we build the other, we place down a few hoppers, a few full blocks of redstone, and then a base using slabs because we're not made of money, add in some powered rails, connect it all up using normal rails, and then place down your minecart with hopper what? And then there we go. Because the hopper minecart is slightly raised, it'll be able to collect anything that is on the surface here, and drag it down into itself, and then into these hoppers, and then eventually into this chest. Look at that, 19 whole melon slices, except those, as you can see, are melon slices, not melons. We have yet to craft them, and that is where our new friend, the crafter, comes into play. So, the crafter, or the autocrafter as I often refer to it as because I don't know. What is it and how does it work? Well, basically it's an automatic crafting table. Items will go into here, and then they'll be crafted. Although it needs a redstone pulse to actually craft them, you can't just, take them out as you would with a crafting table. Obviously our goal is to craft melons, which require melon slices, which the above farm is currently producing for us. I destroyed the hopper minecart because it was too noisy. Now, these delectable wedges are funneled, as we have seen, into these hoppers, and then these hoppers can funnel them down into the crafter. We can see the melon slices going in one at a time, from top left to bottom right. Or really, it doesn't really matter in this case because it's just a full square of them, which we can see slowly fills up like this. Now, we could just have a simple clock running out the back of here that sends a pulse every tick or so to basically activate the crafter. The downside of this is that if we have it activating every single time there's anything in there, we'll end up with a bunch of melon seeds, which we don't need. So instead, we need to tell it to only craft something when it's full. The easiest way of doing that is by using one of these, a redstone comparator. If we put one here, and the crafter is currently empty, as we can see at the top there, it currently has a power of 0, meaning if we put a bit of redstone here, it'll have 0 power. If the crafter were to have, say, a single item or a single slot disabled, it would then register as having something in it, which would give the comparator a power of 1, which would output a bit of power to the redstone. If we have 3 slots disabled or 3 items in there, then you'll have a redstone power of 3, meaning it has a range of 3. And therefore, we want it to have a full power of 9 coming out of it, and then we need to loop that back into the crafter. And to do that, we could have something as simple as this. 9 bits of redstone feeding into 2 repeaters, which then activates this block, which then activates the crafter. And therefore, if I unlock the hoppers, we can see it goes in, and then it produces it. Now, isn't that a thing of beauty? That is, of course, the obvious and simple way of doing it. This is what my brain came up with at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was first trying to put this together. I've already built this, oh god, why? And there you have it, that's more or less how the melon farm works. It's all very simple, it uses very simple redstone, although obviously these things are only simple if you know what you're doing in the first place. And hopefully this will help out. Now, naturally, this thing scales pretty well both horizontally and vertically if you want to, say, stack these on top of each other. Obviously you'll have to make sure that your minecart tracks don't get in the way of this other redstone, so you'll have to have a bit of an air gap, but you might end up with something a little like this. This is the design that I've used in my survival world. It's not the biggest, but it works fairly well. It's only got 2 stories, but as you can see, it pumps it all down into a single auto crafter, which then, well, crafts using that stupidly complicated thing I showed you earlier, and, well, it works. It works. I know it works. I've built it, and it works. And by using the same principle of observers observe things and then pistons push things, or pop things, you could have a sugarcane farm for paper, or sugar for that matter, or a bamboo farm for all of your bamboo needs, be it for sticks, or blocks of bamboo, or bamboo planks, or whatever you have, which can, you can use an autocrafter to make these planks themselves, which saves you a little bit of crafting, which is always nice. And you could even hook up a bamboo farm to, say, another farm, such as a kelp farm. If you want dried kelp for some reason, I don't know. Or you could hook the same up to a cactus farm so that you can have an automatic green dye farm should you need green dye for some kind of project. Wow, the sun is getting low. Or you can use the same principles, just upside down, for a glowberry farm if for some reason you want glowberries. Or you could put the observer behind a grass block so that when a sheep eats it and it becomes a dirt block, it automatically activates a dispenser full of shears so that it shears the sheep, which is then collected by another hopper minecart, which then feeds into another hopper minecart, which then pushes all of your wool into a centralized location. Or you can just do anything else. I mean, that's the joy of this game after all, you can just make whatever you want as long as you have an idea of what you're doing. Here's an automatic pumpkin pie farm. Here's a cathedral. And a hole. But anyway, that's more or less it. That's how the melon farm works. And there's also a cheeky little glimpse into some of the things that I've been up to. So, yeah. That's the video. Bye.